The era of extravagant diplomatic meets is back, with backslapping, handshakes, elaborate welcome ceremonies, photo ops, personal interactions, with a new edition of masks are up for display at the Grand Coliseum of Diplomacy in the city of Rome. Arrivals, bilaterals, and special meets have begun ahead of the high-wide 16th G20 summit. The major bilaterals and meetings have begun, starting from the latest. One of the major diplomatic meets in recent times, the American president held a meeting with his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron. This is their first in-person meeting after last month's major diplomatic dust-up over nuclear submarine agreement with Australia. Now, the highly anticipated bilateral meeting between the long-standing allies and Joe Biden took the opportunity to repair the fractured ties on a global platform. The two men grasped hands and Macron threw his arm over Biden's shoulder as they waved and sat down for a joint presser.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The only party at stake?
We have no older or no more loyal, no more decent ally than France. It's been with us from the beginning. You're the reason, in part, why we became an independent country. There is no place in the world where we can't work together and cooperate. France is value added no matter where it is, and that's how we view it. And so, whether it's the Sahel, we're working together. You're carrying the burden of dealing with terrorism in that part of the world, or attitude toward what happens in other areas, from our partnership with Afghanistan to today. And so I want to get something clear in front of all the press. We view you as an incredibly valuable, serious partner. Article 5 means everything to us. You were there for us, we'll be there for you. A lot more work we can do together.
Thank you, Mr. President.
No, thank you. Thank you.
One of the highlights of the day was the much-awaited and highly symbolic meeting between the world's most prominent Roman Catholics at the Vatican City. Joe Biden and Pope Francis, a dozen Swiss guards in their blue and gold striped uniforms with red-plumed halberds, stood at attention at the San Damaso courtyard to welcome the U.S. President and the First Lady. Now, they were received by Monsignor Leonardo Sapienza, who runs the papal household. Joe Biden held a private meeting with the Roman pontiff, which reportedly went over time. The meeting lasted for about 75 minutes, which is an unusually long time for an audience with the Supreme Pontiff. Now, the pair then proceeded to a broader meeting with the First Lady and top officials joining in. The lengthy session did put Biden behind schedule for his later meetings, which was with his Italian counterpart. Joe Biden held his first bilateral meeting with Italian President Sergio Mattarella at the Quirinale Palace. Now, the leaders posed for photos, and Biden went off to privately greet the Italian and American delegations at the palace. Then the American and Italian presidents walked upstairs for their bilateral. The meeting was followed by another bilateral with the Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi. He was about 45 minutes behind schedule. Now, this bilateral was held at the Chigi Palace in Rome. Following the tradition, the leaders posed for a photo op before heading in for the face-to-face meeting. Now, we have our principal diplomatic correspondent, Sedan Sybil, who is joining us live from Rome, and we are also joined by WION correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York. Good evening to you both. Susan, coming to you first. President Biden seems to be making all the right assurances as he tries to soothe the frayed ties with French President Emmanuel Macron.
Despite the fact that they were in Italy, it was symbolic that they were on French turf when meeting one another, and President Biden was making an admission of some sort when saying that perhaps the manner that the AUKUS deal was made was somewhat clumsy, not so much a diplomatic way of saying things, but he said, frankly, to the French president that he thought that France was aware, and that was something that the White House had said once or twice before, despite the fact that France had denied it. So, that was the bone of tension and the dust-up, and Emmanuel Macron, for his part, really, you could tell that what he wanted from this meeting, and we'll see what the statement is after this meeting, is he wanted France to really regain the respect after that dust-up and somewhat of an embarrassment that it was put not only among its European counterparts, but also in the on the world stage as well, and to regain that respect from the United States and from the Biden administration. So yes, the United States did, President Biden did sound the right notes, but we do have to take into consideration that this meeting is a lot more important for France than it is for the United States at the end of the day, and I think that both sides understand that.
Right. Siddhant, you have been tracking all the developments in Rome. What is the latest from the ground as the hectic bilaterals are taking place between world leaders ahead of the G20 meet?
Well, yes, there were a number of bilaterals, whether it's the Indian Prime Minister meeting with the European leadership and the Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, or whether it is the US President Joe Biden having a call-on with the Pope, or the meeting with the French President. But this is in the run-up to the big meeting, the 16th G20 meeting that will take place here in Rome starting tomorrow, and we know there are hectic activities going on. In fact, the city is almost buzzing with activity, even though the convention center is little far from the city center. But largely when the leaders will be meeting, they will be talking about COVID crisis, climate change, Afghanistan, economic impact of COVID crisis, and there needs to be a consensus over these issues because the world stands increasingly divided on these issues. We have seen, and specifically on climate change, but there are few misses as well. The Chinese President Xi Jinping will not be present. The Russian President will not be present in in person in the meeting as well. Traditional trilaterals which have been happening on the sidelines of the G20 summit, the RIC, which is Russia, India, China, the J, the Japan, America, and India trilaterals. In fact, for that matter, BRICS is also not happening because traditionally BRICS leaders have been meeting on the sidelines because while it is happening, the G20 summit is happening in person. Last year it happened virtually because of the COVID crisis for the first time. There are few misses by the leaders because of their own domestic issues. In fact, like the Japanese Prime Minister is not able to attend because of elections back home. So largely the leaders who are gathering and leaders who are joining virtually, it's a summit in hybrid mode, will be trying to form consensus over various world issues.
Right, Siddhant. Now, Susan, back to you. Apart from assuaging the French, what else is on the agenda for the US president during his European tour?
Of course, the big summit with European leaders, the G20 summit, and then the big climate summit in Glasgow are the two main events. But this is an important trip for Joe Biden, considering the fact that here at home he's facing a lot of trouble, not only on Capitol Hill and in Washington, but generally among the American public with low poll numbers because he's having problems with a bill, ironically, which is related to the economy here at home and the climate issue as well. So while he did try to gain some momentum with a quote-unquote framework on a $1 trillion bill leaving to Europe, that was a non-success. So when he goes to Europe, it sort of works vice versa as well, gaining something from this climate summit and this trip he hopes will sort of work to the benefit of his audience at home as well. Remember, he has a Build Back Better agenda here at home. He touts these overseas trips as being trips that benefit the American middle class. So he hopes to make some gains during these over trips for his audience at home as well. And also, he has to regain the trust of the international community after that debacle in Afghanistan and the criticism that he faces, for better or worse, true or false, that he doesn't have the backing of the international community on the international front.
Right. Thank you very much, Susan, for joining us. We'll leave it there.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.